like now. We should be actually going live. I'll give it a second. But alright, so we should be receiving content. Alright, hey everyone, welcome to the podcast on my channel, Andres Restart. I'm joined by Brandon and Will. Brandon from What About Nintendo and Will from Lil the Deity. They are usually here, they're pretty cool. The links to both their channels are in the description below. If you have not seen them before, make sure to check them out. But we have a lot to talk about today. Well, a lot we want to talk about today. And we're going to get to that really soon, but let me just kind of go over the outline. So we're going to be talking about Liongate, a studio who's behind the Skyrim port for Switch. They've been communicating with Capcom openly on Twitter, saying that they really want to bring over Monster Hunter World. So we're going to be getting into that a little bit, and we're going to be talking about Bethesda, the guys who originally made Skyrim, who published Skyrim and such. They're going to be holding a Pre E3 event, and there could be some cool stuff there. We'll probably touch on that. And then we're going to be talking about the Wall Street Journal had a report about Nintendo wanting to bring more peripherals to the Switch. So we're going to be talking about that and what that could mean. And then we're going to be going over our Kirby Kirby Star Allies impressions, and then we're going to be going to more of the more interesting speculative sort of thing. We're going to be going over like the different ideas we could have for new Zelda games, and then this is part of our whole like sort of celebration for Breath of the Wild and Nintendo Switch, because on March 3rd they both reached their 1-year anniversary. So then after all the Zelda ideas, we're going to be going into just different cool things we think about the Nintendo Switch, and perhaps giving our own like thoughts on what we can expect from the future from the Nintendo Switch. So yeah, that is the plan. How are you guys doing?
Good. I got to play Bayonetta, and I'm playing the Batman Arkham series for the first time. Like, I look into them a lot, but this is my first time playing them. They're great.
Oh,
and
I've
also,
never played Arkham before.
Yeah, but I've been looking into it extensively, and I finally looked at a Devilman Crybaby. And that was
heard good things about that.
That was kind of crazy, but yeah.
I still haven't checked out Devilman Crybaby. I keep on hearing about it. It's an anime, right?
Yeah.
I haven't checked it out either. I hear it's highly disturbing, so maybe I'll check it out.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, definitely.
Huh. So I'm actually, right now I'm at a friend's house, so that's why there's a bit different backdrop. There might be a little bit of an echo. So, but I think it sounds good. If it doesn't, if there's the music in the background's too loud, if I'm too loud or anything like that, let me know in the comments, guys. It would really help out so we can make sure the rest of the podcast doesn't suck. But I've been having a good time with my friends. Actually, I decided to try out that idea I had last week of a multiplayer Doki Doki Literature Club, where I'm actually playing with my friends. We're going over it together. We still haven't gotten to the crazy part yet, so maybe we'll try that a little bit later tonight. Yeah, so it's interesting. And aside from that, I played Kirby All-Star Allies as well with my friends, because it is kind of a party game. It worked out pretty well. So yeah,
All-Star Allies?
I keep on saying All-Star, right? I keep on saying that it's just Kirby Star Allies. So for anyone who doesn't know, Kirby Star Allies, yeah. Brandon, what about you? What have you been up to?
Well, I was playing Cuphead, and screw that game and its nonsense. It was about 2 hours of pure rage. But I enjoyed it. It was fun. It was just, that game is so hard, and some of it is so unfair. It's brutal. But I had a fun time streaming that. But I've gotten most of the rage out of my system. But yeah. Good times and bad times, both at the same time. It was weird. It was a weird experience.
I haven't played Cuphead yet, but I still have been playing Celeste, actually. And that's another game that can be really, really challenging, another platformer kind of game that's pretty crazy. It's a game that hasn't gotten that much publicity, though, but it's such a good game. It literally, according to Metacritic, it is the 3rd highest rated game on the Nintendo Switch. It's a really, really good game. I think it's like a 93 on Metacritic, which is ridiculous. It's an indie game. It's $20. If you're into things like Meat Boy or Super Mario Brothers, you're going to love this game. It has great music, a great art style. It's very challenging, but there is an assist mode, so if you're not confident in your skills or your ability to die incessantly and keep on trying despite that, you can make it easier for yourself. So I encourage you guys to check it out if you haven't.
It's kind of a sad reality of indies, like you said, Andres. They'll never get the recognition they deserve. I think Cuphead hit a really sweet spot.
Yeah, for the most part, they don't. Then you get the few that get really high up there, and you're like, oh, yay, indie games getting recognized.
Well, yeah, sometimes indie games sort of catch fire. Like, I was just talking about Doki Doki Literature Club. You can get that game for free on Steam, right? And that game has become kind of a cultural phenomenon, right? And Cuphead is kind of right there as well. So sometimes it can happen. Celeste, it's a very high-quality game, but it doesn't seem like it has caught that... that really, it's not trending, right? It's not like people are really talking about it that much. It's just
I've seen some people talk about it. I'm curious to see how
it deserves way more attention. It deserves way more attention.
It does.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's been doing pretty decently for an indie game, so I wouldn't say it's like doing terribly or anything,
Right. I hope it continues to do well. Maybe it'll be kind of like an evergreen title, like Nintendo titles, where it continues to sell. But, let me kind of give shout-outs to everyone in the chat, assuming I can get the chat to work. It's like, I don't know how it's scrolling on
Sure
here.
You're not on that bullshit top chat.
Oh, I am on the top chat, actually. I am.
Top chat should not be default. You should be able to change that.
Right. Okay. All right, it's scrolling now. But anyway, shout out to Sun Gohan, man. How you doing? Brandon, I know who you are. Retro Potato, what's up? Arushan, Banana, Black Star Dude, No Filter Nintendo Podcast, Alex, screw you, Alex. Hey, Snowman. No, Alex is my friend.
Okay.
Yeah, I can see him right now. Yeah, but he actually saw me playing Celeste. He thought it was great. Yeah. So, do you guys actually want to get the discussion started? Of course you do. That's why you're here. So, let's.
What kind of question is that?
Yeah, I know it's a really dumb question. That's the kind of question it was. I do want to say that I'm going to try to be a bit more time efficient today, because I guess I'm counting this as a mini vacation, but I'm still doing the podcast anyways. So yeah, let's get started. So, porting Monster Hunter World. Was it Liongate? That's a movie. That's a movie.
Yeah, that's a movie studio.
We talked about this before.
It's Iron Galaxy.
Iron Galaxy.
Why is Liongate in my head? Iron Galaxy.
No.
Lionsgate does the Medea movies. Okay. They did the
right.
They did the Tyler.
So Iron Gate wants to. Now they aren't. They want to port Monster Hunter World. For those who don't know, Monster Hunter World came out on PC, Xbox One, and PlayStation 4, not on the Nintendo Switch. The interesting thing about that is that Nintendo, for the last 4 or 5 years, has been pretty much the main platform for Monster Hunter games. Most Nintendo fans are familiar with Monster Hunter at this point. It sells so well on Nintendo systems. Yet Monster Hunter World did not come to Nintendo systems. Usually it's exclusive to Nintendo systems. And now this one isn't. It is kind of a different project, a little separate from the typical Monster Hunter games. It's kind of like a divergent path. But a lot of Nintendo fans want this game. With how well the Switch is doing, or games are selling much better on the Switch as opposed to the other platforms, you would think Capcom would want that game on the system. But it has not come. It does look graphically intensive. The Switch is weaker than the PS4 and the Xbox One. So there's some different factors here. They did start development for Monster Hunter World before the Switch was a thing, it's a process. But still, they would have to scale down a lot of assets to make the game run on the Switch. So do they even want to do it? Is it worth the effort? What's the name of the studio? Iron Galaxy. Iron Galaxy wants to port it. What do you guys think? Do you guys think that Iron Galaxy will actually end up porting this game to the Nintendo Switch? Or is Capcom, they're offering to do it. Obviously, they're not going to do it for free, right? But is Capcom going to do that? What do you guys think? I'll give my opinions in a little bit. And before you guys jump into it, I'll give you guys a second. Just want to let everyone know that I want things to be a bit more of a cleaner discussion, so we're going to focus on answering questions in between each and every topic. So if you have questions, I am going to get to it. Just keep in mind, I'm going to save those questions in between each topic. So just so you know, I'm not ignoring you. I'm focusing on the discussion, so it's a good podcast. Now, yeah, let me know what you guys think.
Well, I do feel like that it will happen, but because the Skyrim port is very, very impressive. They got all of it's pretty much everything that the other consoles had and potentially had and stuff like that. And they added Zelda DLC and stuff. I'm sure that didn't take up that much space, but still they got that entire massive game on the limited cartridge and all that stuff. I do think something like this would happen, but Capcom, as they continue to update it, and I'm pretty sure they update it monthly. I think something like this would happen where Capcom is like, okay, complete edition, you can port that to Switch, and then we would get that later. Because I do think that the Switch, like, it's a timing thing where Capcom, they didn't calculate for the Switch. They were already way too deep in development for the Switch. So I do think that if this happens at all, it'll happen after. Like, as for the likelihood of it happening at all, I think it's gonna happen, maybe.
Okay. Yeah, I think. Sorry about the background noise, by the way, but I'll keep myself muted when I'm not talking. But I do think that this is possible. I think it's a possibility. That obviously Iron Galaxy has done some really good Switch ports, and I think I agree with Will that if it does come, it will probably be like the Monster Hunter Ultimate Edition, like they like to do. So I think it'll be the next version of Monster Hunter Worlds. So I think it's possible. Maybe not 100%, but I think there's a pretty good chance that it could come to the Switch. But I think they might also make, as No Filter is saying, they might also make the exclusive to the Switch Monster Hunter. So I think either of those, I think both of those have the possibility of coming. So I don't know. It's hard to say, but I think it's both possible, definitely.
Yeah, I think at the very least we will be getting a Switch exclusive Monster Hunter.
Yeah, well, I think it has to be a no-brainer. Monster Hunter has done well on the Switch. Now, Capcom's not going to stop doing that. But is Monster Hunter World going to come? That's another question. We're definitely going to see Monster Hunter eventually in the Switch. I'm not sure if there's going to be Monster Hunter World. So it could very well be that Monster Hunter World is a separate project. I think it was. I mean, after all, they literally said that they started development for this years ago, and we've already gotten multiple Monster Hunters on the 3DS and even the one that wasn't localized that came out on Switch in Japan. Like, so they clearly have different development teams working on Monster Hunter games. Like, there's more than one line of Monster Hunter game. So that other line of Monster Hunter game that we've been getting almost every year on the 3DS, that line could be seeing a significant improvement and being kind of like the exclusive Nintendo Switch Monster Hunter. Could they actually port Monster Hunter World, though? I think it's physically possible, right? After all, Iron Galaxy wants to port the game. They think it's possible. They know it's possible, but it is going to be a tough job. It's going to require a lot of resources, a lot of time put into optimization and understanding the console, and they might even have to kind of break down the engine and change it up a lot, not just scale down assets to really make it work and flow well. But is it worth it? This is a studio that's not a part of Capcom. Capcom probably has its own plans for Monster Hunter, right? Like we said, there could be already another line of Monster Hunter deeply in development for the Switch. They just haven't announced it yet. And they may not want to bring Monster Hunter World because that can get in the way of the sales of that in terms of the scheduling. They may still decide that it's worth it. It's also possible that the Capcom is already porting Monster Hunter World. So will Iron Galaxy be porting it? I think it's unlikely because there's so many different things that Capcom could have already have planned, So I would say this is unlikely. But Monster Hunter is definitely coming to Nintendo Switch. In what form? That remains to be seen, but I think it's definitely going to be a step up from what we've seen from the 3DS.
Yeah, you make a good point, especially since I do believe Capcom is making some exclusive Monster Hunter probably right now. So depending on when that comes out, that could eat sales from Monster Hunter World, so they may not want to port that. But maybe if it depends. If this new exclusive Monster Hunter is coming, 2 years from now, they might want to get a Monster Hunter World port out.
That's a good point because if we're not going to see a Monster Hunter for Switch until 2019. Maybe they could somehow pull off a 2018 port of Monster Hunter World by holiday season. Although they would have to get started immediately if they wanted to have a Monster Hunter World port by 2018 holiday season. And I find it hard to believe that if Capcom already has plans for Monster Hunter and Switch, which they obviously have to, right? Because Nintendo, they have such a great relationship that they wouldn't have. Like if it was a 2020 game, then I could see them porting it, right? But there's no way they're going to wait that long to bring Monster Hunter to the Switch. They bring out a Monster Hunter almost every year already. you know. So yeah, I just
They
like
could. They
Maybe.
could. Where you know it's. I feel like at the end of the day, I don't want to say that they want to port it in its current form. I don't want to say it's incomplete, but they're not finished supporting it yet. I feel like when it comes down to, hey, we need extra sales on this definitive editions or this Game of the Year edition, whatever they want to call it, we need extra sales on it. I feel like they're going to be like, hey, just put it on the Switch. We're going to treat it like a big boy, no matter how ugly it is. Because by that time in Japan, it will be, well, it already is a monster.
Yeah. Monster Hunter is a monster, yes.
Yeah. I don't really see this getting ported unless it's going to be with the Ultimate Edition.
Has that been announced already?
No.
We're just assuming it's going to be an Ultimate Edition.
It's Capcom.
It's like they've done that for like forever. So I don't see why not. So I think if that case, I don't think that'd be out till at least next year, because Monster Hunter Worlds just came out, and I don't think they would make an Ultimate Edition less than a year.
You guys make a good point, though.
So
like they could have dropped a bomb at E3, like, hey, a more hardcore Monster Hunter on Switch.
That's more to the original style, which I don't think it's that much different, but you could. Monster Hunter World is technically a bit more casualized. I could definitely see that.
There are some mechanics that help casuals in the world. Some people just want that 100% ruthlessness of Monster Hunter Double Cross.
I just think it's weird that they didn't localize Monster Hunter Double Cross. I don't understand why they didn't do that.
The heck are they doing with that?
But I think that's the only thing that's weird about this. It's not the fact that Monster Hunter World didn't come to the Switch. It's that they didn't localize the one they already had for the Switch. So I think it's strange, but I think Capcom has definitely seen the sales for the Switch, so I wouldn't worry. And I mean, there could be, like you guys suggested, there could already be a Monster Hunter ready to be announced for the Switch coming out later this year, and we'll see it at E3 or perhaps the Tokyo Game Show. So I wouldn't worry too much, guys. Monster Hunter is definitely coming to the Switch. It's just a matter of time. Will it be World? I don't know. I would say that's unlikely. So
maybe not.
Maybe, but if there is another version of World, maybe that will be ported in the future. That is possible. So I want to get to the chat now, unless there's anything else you guys want to say to this subject.
No.
All right, let me actually cross off this topic because I didn't do a good job of doing that last time. Now, hey, Savage64, we have played the Kirby All-Star, not All-Star, Kirby Star Allies demo already. Will, did you play it? Yep. Okay, cool. So, yeah, we've all played it already. And we will be talking about that in a little bit. There's a couple other topics I'm going to cover first. But before I get started on the next topic, I just everyone who's watching the video, make sure to like the video, share it with your friends. Let's get it really lit in here and actually have a whole bunch of people watching.
Did you say lit?
I said lit. Yeah, you can hate me and kill me. So, all right, let's get started. All right, Bethesda. Bethesda is actually going to have a pre E3 event before E3, because it's a pre-E3 event. And there's a bit of hype going into this, and if you don't know who Bethesda is, they are the guys that are behind Skyrim, Fallout, those games, Wolfenstein, they published Doom. So they are responsible for a lot of really popular first-person games. Some really big games. I would say one of the bigger games in the industry. And having Bethesda on board, Nintendo, that's I would argue maybe, perhaps, in my opinion, it's like the best third party to have on board. So it's pretty cool. Now, as a Nintendo fan, seeing that Bethesda is going to be holding an event, does that get me excited? Do I think that there could be something there for the Nintendo Switch? Maybe. What do you guys think?
I mean, they could talk about Wolfenstein 2 port they already have.
We still don't have a date for that, do we?
No, they haven't shown anything of it.
We haven't heard, until we saw that red screen after the Direct. Literally nothing else has come out about it.
So I think they'll probably show that off. I
do think, because some things that they've said about the Switch, like there have been multiple articles saying, Bethesda is in love with the Switch, Bethesda ex Nintendo for life or whatever. I do think that they're going to have at least a little something for us Nintendo fans. I feel like this is the start of the companies or these Western developers, I guess you could say, since we always get good Japanese support, these Western AAA developers treating the Switch and Nintendo like a big boy and is starting to announce other stuff like simultaneously with other consoles and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think there's a possibility that if they do show a new game, they'll say that it's also coming day and date with the Nintendo Switch.
It would be about time to start getting some day and date games. I feel honestly, my gut feeling is that I think we will get some Switch announcements for their other games. I think Bethesda's definitely on board with the Switch, but I still don't think we'll be at the point of day and date. That may be something will come next year. I think, considering the whole development cycle, these games take 2 to 3 years to make.
Maybe after next
year.
Yeah, maybe after next year. It's also possible. But, we'll just look at what we got with Doom. They patched the game recently to have even better graphics and frame rate and performance and such, and motion control. So the patch, to me, almost feels like sometimes what we get in terms of improved ports, and that's really cool. And it kind of goes to show you, at least in terms of performance, that the Doom that we saw on Switch wasn't like the optimal, best possible performance we could ever get out of a Switch game. Like, there were people that were saying that. It's like, this is clearly the most maximized version we could ever get out of Switch. History tells us otherwise, because every system, no matter what kind of system, year one games are always the worst looking. They still don't entirely understand the system. There's kind of like a rush to get the games out there. There's more of a time crunch, so they don't have as much time to really take advantage and optimize everything and learn the different ins and outs of the architecture. So as things go on, even with the Switch, they will continually find ways to make things look and run better. That's just the way it is. So yeah, but regardless, answer that point before I continue.
Well, I was gonna say, I'm sure, like, even Nintendo themselves have said, the maximum power of the Switch. The maximum power of the Switch hasn't really been reached yet. Like, they haven't found a way to get all of the maximum potential. And even with the PS4, which is 5 years old this year, people still haven't, like, developers still haven't got every ounce of power they could get out of that system.
You can make the argument that they still didn't really push out the maximize of PS3 and the Xbox 360 when they were out, and those systems were out for 7 to 8 years. So,
oh gosh, early 360 games versus late 360 is like, is this even the same console?
Early 360 games basically just looked like higher res Xbox games.
Yeah, they totally did.
Like, the Wii, first year almost looked like it competed with the 360. Almost. Like, you could tell that the 360 was definitely more powerful, but, like you took the Wii's best games, and you're like, in standard definition, you'd be like, hey, you know what? There's not that big of a difference here. And, of course, that was not even close to the case. But, there was at least some minor comparison in the beginning. But, yeah, there's still a lot to be expected from the Switch graphically. And there's something I want to get to that, but we'll come full circle. But do you guys think there's going to be any, like, for example, do you guys think we're going to see the next Elder Scrolls at this Pre E3 event?
Oh, gosh.
Or are we still going to be seeing more Skyrim?
There's never going to be another Elder Scrolls game. It's just going to be Skyrim over and over again, forever. What are you talking about?
Skyrim is going to
new Elder Scrolls game.
Skyrim came out in 2011. 2018.
He said, what are you talking about, new Elder Scrolls game?
7 years and they still haven't announced Elder Scrolls 6.
Yeah, I feel like
tripping.
I agree.
But what else is there left to port the game to? Like,
who knows? They'll come out with some calculator and they'll port it over.
Fallout.
They port it to a calculator. Yeah, they might.
Isn't Fallout 4 still broken? Like, Skyrim is still broken too. So never mind.
Yeah, but all Bethesda's games are pretty much broken. This is how they roll.
Yep.
Open world Bethesda game equals broken.
Given how much Skyrim we've seen recently, like we saw Skyrim VR and Skyrim Switch last holiday season, I don't feel like we'll see the next Elder Scrolls this year. But I wouldn't be shocked to see it maybe next year, and maybe we'll get a day and date release for the next Elder Scrolls game with Switch. That'd be really cool.
All right. I will say this: like, if we can get the revival of Bayonetta and Mega Man, and like, I'm pretty sure there was something else that was big last year. If we can do all that in 1 year, I feel like the sky is the limit to a degree. I do feel like the sky is the limit to a degree.
Last year was insane. Last year
that was
never have been possible.
Yeah, that was absolute. That's the best timeline. That is the perfect timeline.
What do you guys think of Evil Within 2 coming to the Switch? Snowman brought that up in the chat.
I would not mind that at all. I remember the director commenting on that. He was like, "Yeah, it'll definitely be interesting. I would not mind that."
Yeah, so maybe we could get an announcement for that coming to the Switch. I definitely feel like if we're gonna get an announcement for the Switch, it's gonna be like a port for something that's already out.
I feel like first and foremost we should expect that. That is the most likely out of any other.
After all the leakers, right, have continually said this is going to be the year of the ports, right? So we're probably going to be getting a lot more ports, which isn't necessarily a bad thing because if you've never played the game before, it could be a situation where you can play the game and it be the best version because they may add more content, may improve upon it, may fix some of the glitches. So
I would like to. I'm sure there will be a lot of ports, but I think that there's going to be some showings of new stuff, but go ahead and continue.
I think there will be new stuff as well. Like, I think the new Call of Duty will be on it. If they make another Assassin's Creed for this year, I think it would be on it. I don't think it would be just ports for third parties, but I think for the majority, probably. And then next year, I think we're going to see a lot of those day-and-date releases, and the ports are just not going to continue.
Okay.
Well, actually, you're right, Brendan. Since they do the Assassin's Creed annually, you're right.
So I noticed that this may be a soft prediction by LSU Syndiquil, but he thinks it may be coming to a toaster. They might be bringing
Skyrim coming to a toaster near you.
That's way more likely than Elder Scrolls 6, which is sad.
Not literally, but yeah. I mean, it may not be too far off. Well, hey, Jeremy Benz, how you doing, man? So, are we ready to move on to the next topic? Is there anything else you want to say to this Bethesda event?
No, I'm ready, bro.
All right, cool. So, the next topic in line is this report about Nintendo wanting more peripherals for the Switch. So, the Wall Street Journal had a report, because they have some information, that Nintendo wants to focus more on peripherals as opposed to a Switch 2.0. Now, to me, this is really interesting for a few different reasons, but do either of you guys want to jump at it first before I kind of explain things a little bit more?
Can we get a 4K dock? Is that included in peripherals? Does that count?
So,
please say that counts.
Let me talk about this a little bit more before I let you guys kind of expand.
Yeah,
so,
go ahead.
Yeah, there's some talk about taking advantage about the USB-C. The USB-C is that little connection where you plug in the cable to the Switch. That's how it connects to the dock. And peripherals, for those who don't know, peripherals are like add-ons, like different things you could attach to your system. A good example of a peripheral would be like, for example, the Game Boy Color. You could attach a little light to it. That would be a peripheral. The GameCube little connection that allows you to connect game controllers to your Wii or your Switch, that's a peripheral. The dock for the Nintendo Switch, that's a peripheral. So basically add-ons to any sort of system. Now, when I hear this talk about a focus on peripherals, I think this is where Nintendo should go. I don't think they should go and create a Switch 2.0 or, a Switch Pro, which is more powerful. I think it'd be smarter to create a dock, right? Because you're not alienating as many fans. You're not forcing fans to have to buy a whole new system to play the games. You're just simply giving them the option to perhaps, improve the graphics a little bit when they play in television mode. And considering the patent that we already got before the Switch, we literally said exactly this, some sort of supplemental computing device, right? And considering that the Switch has the ability to scale graphically, I feel like it only makes sense. And, I mean, Brandon, I know you know that the technology exists for them to create a dock that has an additional GPU that can maybe improve the resolution a little bit and frame rate. So, when you're playing on the go, 720p. When you're playing on your television, 1440p or maybe even 4K. And I think that'd be really cool. And for those who care about 4K gaming, they can invest the extra $200 or so it would cost to create a dock. And that would be a great way to extend the life cycle of the Switch, which Nintendo has also said they want it to last more than 5 to 6 years. And with as powerful as the Switch is now, it doesn't seem likely unless they have a way to improve the graphical capabilities. What do you guys think? I know that was a lot.
Yeah. I'm just worried that one day we're going to get to the time where games are going to look great on the television and you're going to unplug it and the unit itself is going to be the same unit we've had since 2017. And it's going to be like games are going to be like 360p on it, and just it's going to suck. Like, I'm kind of worried about that. Like, hopefully these third parties don't go, oh, hey, there's a 4K dock. Now we can just make it look great in TV mode and look crap on handheld mode and just deal with it. Because I kind of see that as a future if they don't make a Switch 2.0 in a couple years.
Yeah, I kind of see what you're saying, but I feel like it's kind of well, look at this, like Doom and Skyrim. Everyone says that those games look amazing in handheld mode, but when you play it in dock mode, it just doesn't hold up as much. So people aren't complaining about the Switch as a handheld. As a handheld, it holds up really well. It's just when you play it on the television, you kind of see it, and you know when you compare it to the other consoles or even PC, it doesn't hold up as well. So it's the dock mode of the Switch that really kind of needs improvement right now. And I feel like the handheld abilities of the Switch are future-proof, at least for the next generation or so, because it's a really powerful handheld. As far as handhelds go, it's sick. Now, how that kind of accounts the whole scaling, I think it's better than not having anything.
I don't think Nintendo would shoot for power. I'm not trying to undermine you guys' conversation. I'm gonna let you finish like the Kanye thing, but yeah, I don't think that they would go for power. But you guys can continue.
Well, I think it's one of many peripherals they can be adding to the Switch. We're looking at Nintendo Labo. That is a peripheral, a set of peripherals, and the amount of sales that they're going to yield from that, the amount of different kinds of people they're going to be able to reach, that is crazy. It's insane. And if you just look at the kind of technology that they're demonstrating with Nintendo Labo, I think it's amazing. Like, I never would have thought that you would have been able to attach the Joy-Cons to a piece of cardboard, control it with the tablet portion, and move it around however you like. Like, how the idea that the HD rumble in the Joy-Cons is so sophisticated that you can actually change around directions and move it like a little car. That is, I never suspected it could do anything like that.
Right. That's what I think that they would shoot for way before the power.
I think, though, that there is definitely a market that would buy an upgraded dock. Because, as you said, there's a lot of people who say, like, oh, it looks good in handheld, but I wish it looked a bit better in docked mode. I wish it was higher resolution, or I wish the textures were cleaner, or, some such thing where it looks fine when on a smaller screen, but when you blow it up, it doesn't look as good. So I think there's definitely a market, maybe not for a full 4K dock, because as many people point out,
it's a big jump.
That's a huge jump. Like, the technology there would be very expensive.
Personally, I think it would be better to go for 1440p and 60 frames per second. Like, that would be, how would they market that, though? That's interesting. Maybe they could call it
I think
Dock
they would
Pro.
call it a Quad HD dock. Quad HD is 1440p, and that sounds like 4K. So, or maybe they'll call it Ultra. There's Quad HD. There's another name for it.
They could go for Dock Plus.
Yeah, they could.
Or Pro. Any sort of name that just implies better,
Yeah. They might want to go for that 4K moniker. That's really, really right. But if it's not, they might want to do something that sounds similar to that.
I also think Nintendo is they can sometimes surprise you with how they name things. Like it's really hard to predict with how they're going to name things, because
sometimes it's really dumb.
The Wii, really?
Most of the time.
Yeah, the Switch was a great name, but I also never saw it coming either.
I remember explaining to this lady, because by that point the 3DS already had like 5 members in its family, and I was trying to explain to her the difference between the 2DS and the 3DS, and I'm like, okay,
so bad.
I'm like, okay, the 2DS is 2D, but it plays the 3DS games, and she's like, but I can't turn on the 3D on the 2DS. I'm like, no. Because they made it for kids, and they don't want the kids' eyes hurting, but they also want you to play the games on the 2DS.
Yeah, and it's cheap.
Like, wait a minute, so I can't play the 3DS games on the 2DS? I'm like, no, you can play the games on the 2DS, but you can't play them in 3D. It was weird. They got to learn how to. I'm glad they're ditching the whole Switch Pro, Switch this, Switch that.
Oh, they better.
Right, that's the thing though. Like if they go for the whole DSi, the XL sort of that, I thought that was a whole mess. I mean, when they introduced the new, like, oh, I'm gonna get my new Nintendo 3DS, like,
Right.
that was just a mess. Like I don't.
My old new Nintendo 3DS.
I would definitely prefer something more simple.
Old new.
Old new Nintendo 3DS.
Yeah.
I mean, if
My
they go
new
for
new.
power, that
Yeah,
would be
I threw away
that
my
would
new
be the
Nintendo
true
3DS,
Nintendo.
or I sold my new Nintendo 3DS. Like that, that's just so weird.
Because I feel like Nintendo wouldn't go for power until they absolutely had to. Like the 3D, like by the time they released the new 3DS, the 3D, the base 3DS power was just absolutely disgusting. Like I remember seeing Hyrule Warriors on
Oh my
3DS,
gosh.
and it was
So
my
bad.
God. They had to literally realize, holy crap, this game cannot run at all. We have to make a
It's
new
like
system.
15 frames per second.
But if and when they do, I think it would be very interesting.
And I also see some people in the chat kind of suggesting they don't think that a dock could be coming. My counter argument to that is that if you think about what Nintendo normally does, yeah, they don't necessarily go for power, but this peripheral isn't them creating a whole new console. The amount of R&D it would cost to go ahead and do that is not the same. This is them simply catering to a smaller audience within the Switch community that would want that, and it wouldn't be like them at full creating a whole new console. It's not. They don't need to go for. They're basically catering to the Nintendo fan that's willing to put in the big bucks. So like it's kind of like the way I see Xbox One X. No casual player is going to get an Xbox One X. It's for the people who are hardcore chorists that need the best possible gaming experience on their Xbox. And that's a small audience. So this dock is not for a lot of people. It's going to be for a smaller audience. And I feel like keeping all that in mind, it is something Nintendo would be willing to do. I mean, after all, they had patents for it beforehand. So it's not crazy.
Because it's easy to do, or because that would be less effort on their part, I don't think that means that they would do it. Like Nintendo on multiple occasions has left easy money on the table, and I just
see no reason. Oh, sorry.
I mean, it would be cool. Like, don't get me wrong, I would very much lavish in a 4K dock, Switch dock, plus whatever they're gonna call it. I would very much lavish in that, but I don't think Nintendo's like, okay, let's look at the power of this system.
Well, I mean, it's also not completely. Look at the RAM expansion pack for the Nintendo 64. That was something they've done. If you look at the Super Nintendo and the NES, they also had expansions that gave them more features, allowed them to do more things. The RAM expansion pack didn't fail.
They weren't as successful as Nintendo One.
But the way the Switch is designed, it's also a lot easier to bring that into fruition. So I wouldn't be shocked to see it.
I'm sure it's easy. Like I'm pretty sure it's easy. I just don't think that they would do it.
Well,
I see
only
no
time will
reason
tell.
for them. I see no reason for them not to do it. It just
There's no reason for them not to do it. There's
Yeah.
no reason for them not to do VR. But I don't think.
Oh, there's
Well,
big reasons for them not
there
to
are
do
reasons
VR.
to not do VR, actually. I'm with Brandon here. And those reasons have to do with the Switch's portable power. Like, that tablet isn't going to get stronger, right? Like, you can't just put a dock and expect it to run in VR. And on top of the screen resolution isn't high enough. And then battery becomes the
I
issue.
have a headset with a very high resolution screen. Like
Then that becomes really expensive.
The thing
Right,
about
but
VR is you have to run like the same game at like 90 frames per second at least. So if you want like Zelda VR, you'd have to run Zelda Breath of the Wild at 90 frames per second. Otherwise, you'd get motion sickness. This Switch guy can't do that.
The reason why VR is not going to work on the Switch as it is now is because you would literally have to change what the system is. This dock we're talking about, it's just something you put the Switch into. The VR system, like maybe you would have to create a literal new VR system that you could plug a dock into. That's a lot of weight on you, and they still haven't figured out the whole balance issue, which is something Nintendo's not going to dabble into unless they figure out how to do that. I wouldn't be shocked to see the next Switch somehow have some sort of VR capabilities, like the sequel to the Switch, whatever that is. I wouldn't be shocked then, but I think we're at least a few years away.
Yeah, I don't see it. I don't see VR.
I agree. I agree with that, and we're a few years away from a Switch Pro. Like
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
I think a 4K dock could come out in like 2 years.
Yeah, and then like
I just Nintendo.
well, I don't want to go full circles about this kind of argument, right? But just one kind of other point that sort of goes against your point, Will, is that Nintendo has stated they want to go beyond the 5 to 6 year life cycle. How will they extend the life of the system? A dock is one way that they could do it. There could be others. So we'll see.
They could, but
Right.
I don't think they would.
But let's talk about right. There's a few other peripherals that people are bringing up in the chat. Actually, like some people are talking about a different kind of Pro controller, cableless GameCube controllers, Bluetooth headsets. We definitely need a Bluetooth headset on the Switch. So there's two problems I have with the Pro controller. I'm not going to talk about both of them that much. There's a D-pad. I think the D-pad could be way better, but also it doesn't have a headphone jack. Like there's no way to plug in headphones. That's stupid. It's just stupid. Like the gamepad have that. It's an expensive controller that doesn't have a headphone jack. It's just so dumb. And
very dumb.
Like a Bluetooth headset is the only real solution here. So I imagine Nintendo will have some of perhaps their own brand of Bluetooth headset, or at least they would patch the Switch so you can use Bluetooth headsets. Like the Switch has Bluetooth technology and a whole bunch of other stuff. So like it's within the system. It's not hard to do. They just have to allow it.
Yeah.
So I definitely see
Pretty
that
much
coming.
just slap a patch on there and bam, Bluetooth headphones. So I don't know why they haven't done that yet.
Yeah, I feel like they may just, I guess, restructure the Pro controllers as well.
Yeah, I don't know what they're going to do about that.
I wouldn't be shocked if like maybe the Bluetooth headset is coming. It's going to be something they'll launch along with Nintendo's online service in September. There's probably going to be a huge Switch update. Maybe it'll even enable third-party Bluetooth headsets at that time. It wouldn't surprise me.
I would like actual virtual console at that point. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, that's a whole another thing.
Yeah.
Let me read a couple things in the chat that kind of sort of go to our point. Well, Alex was talking about it would be cool if the Switch worked like a Chromecast and you could stream other Nintendo devices to it.
That could be interesting.
How would it work?
I guess it would be like when you... I don't know. You would just...
I don't know how it worked, but that would be cool.
Yeah, I guess you'd plug it in. I guess you'd plug in some kind of Bluetooth dongle, and then it would just transfer the video and audio over. But you'd have to have a peripheral for that. That would be like a capture card.
Maybe, yeah, I could see how something that might work. So
I feel like that'd be too. You'd have to make like a different one for every Nintendo console. It'd be ridiculous. I don't think that's gonna happen.
Yeah, we'll see. Now, Sun Gohan is saying he's seen the headsets for the Switch, but what games would they add it to them? Like, could they put the games like on Splatoon, Mario Kart? Well, you could. If Nintendo's online service, when it comes out in September, is kind of like it's a system-wide thing, which is what it's supposed to be. It functions like Xbox Live. You won't need the voice chat features to be set up within the game. Like the system itself will have the operating system that will handle a lot of those voice communications. They could also just add a simple update to make that possible within those games as well.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to continue in this mobile app. Like they don't do anything with it. It works with one game. They've updated it like one time. Nobody likes it. And we already know that Switch can do in-console voice chat, because when you play Splatoon and you do, I think it's LAN mode, is it? There's voice chat. Just straight up is built-in voice chat in Splatoon.
Yeah.
It's like, what the heck? Use that for everything. It makes no sense.
So, is there any sort of, another idea for peripherals actually could be like all the different things they could do with Joy-Cons. Like, people talk about having GameCube-style Joy-Con controllers. We could have, like, chainsaw-style, like, Joy-Con controllers, like, for Resident Evil games. Like, there's so many different things they could do with that as well. Like, they've already released multiple colors, but I won't be surprised to see different kinds of Joy-Cons. I remember when we first heard about this idea of, like, separate controllers, like, they could create different styles of Joy-Cons.
Yeah, they had patents for different Joy-Con types, like actually like one with they had a patent for one with the D-pad, they had a patent for like ones with different buttons and things like that. So I think that could happen.
Yep.
Yeah, and I mean, another possibility in terms of peripherals could be a VR set. I don't think it's likely, but maybe they could come out with some sort of hardware that makes the Switch VR capable in a good way. It's not impossible, it's just, I don't, it would be expensive, probably. They would have to really figure out a lot of different ways to do it.
And this might be a divisive opinion, but I feel like VR outside of maybe PC is very crude right now.
Oh, it is.
No, I don't think it's a divisive
opinion. Even the PS4
opinion.
Pro VR is supposed
I'm
to
sure
be
I'm sure a lot of PlayStation fans will be like, well, I like my PSVR that's more expensive than the system itself. I'm sure a lot of people would be like that.
I've even heard people who have the PS4 Pro and the PSVR, it's not that great.
Yeah.
Like they say it's blurry.
Wow.
And it disconnects a lot and has audio issues, and like there's even like with the really expensive stuff there are issues. Like even the Vive has issues. And the Vive is like $800.
Yeah.
Well, I think they lowered it to 600, but still, it's like really expensive.
So I'm gonna end this topic because we gotta move on. We may end up covering this a little bit more when we get back to cool ideas about the Switch. So that's kind of why I'm ending it now. But this question I noticed from Snowman. He asked, how would we voice chat in dock mode? Would it have to be a wireless headphone? So the Switch has actually a headphone jack. I was talking about how the Pro Controller doesn't have a headphone jack, but the Switch itself does. But when it's docked, there's no way you can't just stand over your Switch while you're playing games. Like that doesn't make any sense. Basically, you have to have Bluetooth headsets, and they could put in a patch to allow Bluetooth headsets. That's pretty much the only way you could have voice chat while your Switch is docked. You need a Bluetooth headset. That's the only option. Nintendo's alternative option was connecting it to your phone, which also kind of works in a really ridiculous kind of way. They could make that better. They could also simply patch the system to allow Bluetooth headsets. It's really simple. I don't know why they haven't done it. I doubt it's like that much of a power issue or some sort of operating RAM system problem. I don't think it is. I think it's a really minimal amount of energy or memory that needs to be used for voice chat. Am I wrong, Brandon? Or
no?
Yeah, you're not really wrong.
Thing.
Yeah, so I just think they just haven't gotten around to it. I would definitely. I feel like they have to do that. It's just too obvious for them to not fix sooner or later. But they haven't done it yet, which is weird. But it probably has to do with the fact that they're still working out how they're gonna do their whole Nintendo Online service. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like they know they messed up.
Right. That's why they haven't mentioned anything about the app since. They haven't said anything. They haven't really updated. They haven't done anything for it. So yeah, I think they know. They better. Now let's move on to Kirby. Unless there's anything else you guys want to add to that.
No.
Okay. So Kirby Star Allies. The demo came out. I think it's also available in the U.S. eShop as well now.
Yep.
So pretty much everyone can play it. And I played it. Brandon, you played it. Will, you played it. And I think a lot of people in the chat have played it. If you haven't, you can download it now on the eShop if you have a Switch. And I like the game. I think it's very pretty. I think it's colorful. It's easy to pick up and play. It's very simplified. I was able to play it with my friends. We actually had a good time. It wasn't that frustrating for anyone. I'm not saying I think it's going to be the best Kirby game ever, but I think it's going to at least be a good time with friends. That's kind of what I got out of it. It was a demo. I was looking for a narrative. I didn't get that in the demo, but I have seen some clips that suggest there is a narrative in the main game. So I expect the main game to have the narrative that I want. Otherwise, I think the game is good. I like it. I do feel like maybe the controls, while they're simple, it did take me a little bit to sort of kind of figure out exactly how the friend system works and tagging them and well, like I wasn't sure which powers I could actually combine, so I was kind of experimenting a little bit. And when you have friends, how do you do that? We figured it out. It didn't take that long, but it wasn't like instantaneous for us. And
I played it by myself. I couldn't even figure out how to get multiplayer to work. So.
You just plug in the controller and you press the L and R shoulder buttons, and it
Oh,
works.
okay.
Like if other controllers
I was
synced
looking
up,
for,
you will
like, a
see
multiplayer setting.
you'll see controller icons for each player if the controller is already connected to the system. If you press
Yeah,
start,
I never actually tried connecting new controllers. I was just like, where's the
yeah,
two-player,
it
three-player,
just
four-player option?
there's no like multiplayer mode. It's just like integrated into the game itself,
Cool.
which I think is
Yeah.
interesting. And yeah, it flowed relatively well for me. I was gonna get to the point where I do feel like the controls themselves, maybe it was just me, and maybe it's just because I just got into the demo, but I feel like they could have been more fluid and snappy. Maybe I just have to get used to it more. Like it's one of those things where like it's not like it controls like Smash Bros. You know, like the button inputs are similar to Smash Brothers, right? Like it's clear that it comes from, you know, Sakurai, but I wasn't as snappy as I would have liked it to be if I had to critique it. But that's like a minor critique. I'm sure I'll get used to it as I play the game. You know, like I said, it could just be the fact that I just jumped into it. What do you guys think?
That's a very interesting thing you bring up, the controls, because I didn't have a problem with that at all. Like, I thought the controls worked really, really well. I didn't have anything with that. And I actually played by myself. So I guess I have some else to say. But a different point of view, I guess, than you. I thought the game was really fun. I thought some of the combinations you could make were really cool. Like, I liked having my flame sword and shooting, and having my flame cutter and just having, like, flame boomerangs was pretty dope. I thought the game is beautiful. The game's absolutely gorgeous. So I didn't mind. I know some people complained when they learned that it was 1080p 30 frames instead of 60. I didn't mind that at all. I thought it was just fine. Yeah, I thought it was really fun. That was one of my first... only other Kirby game I've played is, I think, Triple Deluxe it is on the 3DS. The one before Planet Robobot, or... Yeah. So I played that one, but I haven't played any other Kirby games. So I'm looking forward to getting this one. I need to try the multiplayer mode, though. But the AI, however, super smart AI, like ridiculous. Like you go up to something and you need to do it, like as soon as it gets on screen, they instantly like, oh, there's something I need to interact with, and they run and do it. Or like if you need to jump on a Switch and need other people on the Switch, like they just instantly know it and they go and do it. Like the AI is super smart. The game is super fun. I thought it was a really good demo. So those are my thoughts.
Okay, I definitely agree with the AI. The AI is very intelligent, and I definitely love actually like bringing together powers. Like that was really cool. I can't wait to experiment more, especially because like a lot of the powers can affect the environment. Like you can burn wood, you can freeze enemies, you can freeze water, you can melt water, frozen water, ice. You can slice grass. Like so, there are things in the environment that can be manipulated by the elements in your different weapons. So I think it's going to encourage you to kind of like try to really experiment and see all the different abilities you can come up with, which I thought was awesome. Yeah, I definitely enjoyed that for sure. What about you, Will?
Well, I don't. Some people might not like what I have to say, but I do think, like Brandon said, it's probably the best looking Kirby game for me personally.
Oh,
like,
there's no question. It's the most beautiful Kirby game ever.
The whole lighting, everything has this sort of purplish tint, I want to say, and the main theme for the greens I think has changed. I think that song is lit, but I can't help but think how, I don't want to say, and I don't think this is bad, I don't think this takes away from the game, but it seems very formulaic and unambitious. I don't know why. Maybe it's because subconsciously I keep comparing it to Kirby 64 and the Crystal Shards.
That was my first Kirby game. I love that Kirby game. My favorite.
Literally the best Kirby game. Right.
Yeah. It had so much charm and
yeah. When you combine powers in that game, you literally get an entirely new power. It's like, so you combine a light bulb and, I don't know, a leaf. You get a lightsaber. You get a dual-sided lightsaber Kirby. So I was like, that one was crazy. I sort of can't shake the feeling that we should have got something a little more ambitious, but what we got, I do feel like is great, especially for what one of you said. It is a very, very good for local co-op. Kirby, he's just that IP. He's that Nintendo IP. It's like, hey, we need a definitive local multiplayer game for Switch. who else but Kirby? And I do feel like that this really hits home at that. You know, hey, hit my sword with water so I can. So every time I throw my sword, it slashes and water flies out of it.
Right. So in that sense, it's actually a good mechanic because it forces teamwork, which is really interesting. And I would say that I'm pretty confident this is a better co-op game than Mario Brothers is. Like, I don't like Mario Brothers as a co-op game at all.
2D Mario Brothers?
Yeah.
No.
I also didn't like 3D World as a co-op game either.
It's because
World,
I think you
feel
played
like
with the wrong people.
No, it's because I don't like people getting in the way of my platforming. I already have to deal with enemies. I don't want to deal with people too.
I never had that problem when I played the game.
Yeah, I feel like 3D World, but I haven't played it, so. But I feel like 3D World would. Everyone can go their own different direction since it's 2D, 3D. Yeah. So, it did seem a little too formulaic for me, but like you said, Andres, it's just a small complaint. And it's just me.
And it is a demo, right?
I'm
when
open,
we play the full
I'm
game,
open about having a bias about it. Like I am thinking of Kirby 64, and I am thinking of Return to Dreamland. So I do have a bias, but what we got was incredible. I do really like the game.
I wouldn't say incredible. I'd say it was at least solid. I think this is definitely. It's hard for this to not be a good game. I think it's gonna be a good game. Will it be a great game? We'll see. I think it's definitely a really good co-op game so far, but it is just a demo,
I don't know about
right?
The whole game, but I do think the demo is incredible.
Right.
Like mixing powers.
Yeah, but to answer some questions in the chat, right? Snowman, do we feel it's too easy? Kirby games are easy. Like that's what they're easy. They're not hard games. I would like there to be kind of more like I kind of like the way Yoshi handles it, right? Like it is also one of those easy platformers, but you can also like there are secrets that are really hard to find. So
go for the secrets in Yoshi's Woolly World and tell me that game is easy.
Right. No. So I think Kirby could take a similar route. I don't know if they are, because any secrets that were in the demo were also pretty easy to find, but the game could get harder. So we'll see. It is just a demo.
These seem like
I think Kirby and Yoshi are just those adventure. They aren't really about the difficulty.
Right.
They're easy, but that isn't really a good thing to judge them by, right? Like you wouldn't judge Mario based on the story because Mario.
I do think though that Kirby could be harder. Like Yoshi, like there are secrets, like you were saying, that can get hard. Like there's challenge in getting those secrets, and I didn't find any challenge in any part of Kirby. It was kind of just smash some buttons and have fun, which isn't bad. But I think there could be like Triple Deluxe had different modes that were like where you could fight against each other and use all these different abilities and different things that you have to like almost have like almost a Smash type mode that they had in the game. They had like different boss rushes and stuff.
So is this going to be like a fully featured game too, or is it just going to have just a single player? Are there going to be mini games? Like I know a lot of Kirby games have mini games. Like I really love the mini games in Kirby 64. I thought that was awesome. Do we know of any mini games that are going to be in this Kirby game? Like is it just a campaign?
We don't know of any. That doesn't mean there's not going to be any, but they haven't spoken of any. I don't think.
I think Kirby and Yoshi are pretty similar in that regard, where they're just mainly about like the hardcore gamer, I guess you could say, would get more out of actually exploring and doing the challenge. Because there are some rooms in Kirby that are like, hey, get out, or this entity will kill you in one hit. It's like,
I think the demo was probably.
I think the demo is probably a lot easier than the full game would be. Those seem like very, very early stages. Like the first. I think the first stage is definitely in the first world. And the second stage, I think, might be towards the end of the first world. So I don't think that's the difficulty of the final game. Plus, a lot of demos are purposely dumbed down to make the game just easier, so you can get through them without having to, to make them accessible, so you can get through them and just see how the game is without having to worry about dying over and over again. So I think the final game will be harder. I think there'll be harder things in it. I don't think that was like a good showcase of how difficult the game is, and most demos.
I feel like I kind of agree with you, but that's not confirmed. So I guess we kind of have to, go into this like, I guess cautiously, right? I would wait for reviews personally. So
Mhm.
Just to kind of answer a few
I
questions.
don't listen to reviews.
You don't
But,
ever? Well,
Uh,
I mean, I'm not saying you
but
should
you're
abide
right,
by the
it's not
score
out.
of a
No, you're
review.
right. You're right. It's not out yet. I think
Yeah.
the point that you were trying to make, it isn't out. We can't really say anything.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but to reviews though, like I don't necessarily pay attention to the score entirely. I kind of listen to what they have to say about the game, and depending on what they say, I let it's like, oh, does the game have online multiplayer? Is it this? Like, I listen to what they say and I decide for myself. I don't necessarily pay attention to the score. So.
I don't like reviews on the score, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't pay attention to review scores much, but I'll read what they have to say and see if there's anything that might make me not like the game. But at the end of the day, I usually like to try out the game myself because sometimes people make things out to be bigger deals than I find them to be.
Right.
So reviews can be useful, but they're not concrete.
Yeah. Exactly. So let's get to a few questions and kind of move on to the next topic. Where was I? So Nintendo podcast is saying people are way too anal about game specs now. Are we even gamers anymore? Who really needs a 2D platformer like Kirby at 60 FPS? Nobody. I agree. Like I'm content with 1080p 30 FPS. Would I, if I had to choose between one or the other? Obviously, I would take 60 FPS, but like what I'm losing is nothing significant. Like it's not really worth a conversation. Like I wouldn't be having this conversation if people weren't complaining.
It's not like a super fast, super pinpoint precise platformer game. Like you don't really need those extra frames to tell what's going on because you're not moving that fast anyways. So it would probably look a bit better, but it's not needed.
Yeah, you can tell that it benefits way more from the 1080p. Like I said, the game aesthetically speaking looks incredible.
Yeah, for sure.
And to answer Sav64's question, did Sakurai even make this game? He did not have direct involvement with this game, as far as I'm aware. Yeah. He's working on something else, whatever that is. Yeah, he doesn't have direct involvement. He created Kirby, but he's not. He doesn't really work on them nowadays. So yeah. Ready to move on?
I'm ready.
All right. So the next topic we are discussing today is new Zelda ideas. So I told you guys to kind of think of some new different Zelda ideas, to kind of celebrate Breath of the Wild's 1-year anniversary. Don't expect to hear anything about a new console Zelda game like Breath of the Wild for at least another year, maybe another 2 years. But that doesn't mean we can't sort of speculate about what's next for Zelda, what's in the future. Now, I have some ideas I kind of jotted down, but is there anything you guys want to talk about first? Do you have any actual ideas for a sequel to Breath of the Wild or something else, a prequel, or completely different direction for Zelda? What do you guys got?
Nothing in particular. You can go.
Okay. Well, one idea I have, right, is so you remember the Sacred Realm in Ocarina of Time where Ganondorf was trapped inside this. Well, they represented it as a blank white space. You guys with me here?
Mm-hmm.
Wait, say that again. Sorry.
The Sacred Realm in Ocarina of Time, Ganondorf is trapped in there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what if somehow the Calamity Ganon raises havoc, and I'm kind of describing this as a Breath of the Wild sequel, but it doesn't have to be, where the Sacred Realm sort of it's no longer in a spot, it actually consumes Hyrule itself, it encompasses Hyrule, right? So you maybe say the beginning of the game, you wake up and you're kind of in this giant open space, but it's mostly entirely white, right? But you hear Zelda's voice, and your goal is to kind of break Hyrule out of the Sacred Realm. And as you progress through the game, you kind of open up more and more of this open world. You create, the world appears, you kind of break it through the Sacred Realm, right? And that's kind of a big part of the game. But also, the Sacred Realm has perhaps maybe some corrupted parts. So even when you restore Hyrule, there are parts that are just completely shadowy and dark and oozy or what have you. So it's kind of a play on the whole dark side, light world sort of thing, except I guess taking it to a whole other level where you start the world off where it's not even Hyrule, it's fused into the Sacred Realm. You have to kind of free it, and you slowly get to where Hyrule once was. But there are also corrupted parts. And to make things even crazier, you have time travel. So once you restore Hyrule, there are parts that are like in ruins. Then you can go to another time where it's not in ruins anymore, and they kind of just combine like this Sacred Realm / fused Hyrule on top of different Hyrules because of time, and it would just be, you still have the same Breath of the Wild physics engine, but in terms of like what you see in the world, it's like a different world depending on what you're doing. That may sound over the top, but that's just kind of how I see it in my head. But what do you guys think of that? Or at least to kind of simplify things, what if, like, for example, we got a game like Breath of the Wild, and we see everything in ruins, what if you jump between everything in ruins to the past, where everything was new and clean and restored, and, like, you could maybe swap in, not like in Ocarina of Time, you could go back in time, and you would have to go to the Temple of Time and swap, would go back 7 years or to the future 7 years. The way I'm thinking, like, it would be something you could literally change with a button press. And that could potentially create different like gameplay possibilities. Like you're constantly, going to attack between one time and another to change things or see how things work.
I think that could be an interesting idea. I think you would need to be able to go back and forth, like easily, seamlessly, and like there shouldn't be like a limit, maybe. Because I feel like the Breath of the Wild is very open. You can go anywhere you want at any time. So I wouldn't want like to get stuck in one like side of it or the other, like get stuck in the past or get stuck in the future. I'd want to be able to move through them both seamlessly anytime I wanted to, so I could explore it fully like you can in Breath of the Wild. So that could be, they could make it work for sure. That's an interesting idea.
Yeah, like, a few other ideas I have, like, for example, like, maybe, like, a new flooded Hyrule, right? Like, look at Hyrule, and you see how all the mountains are. What if you just put water on top? All of a sudden, the mountains become islands, and it's Wind Waker 2.0. They could do that. I also don't necessarily want them to just revisit this Hyrule for Breath of the Wild, because, like, we already explored it. I want something new,
Yeah, for sure.
Like, if they were to literally go back to the Hyrule the way it is, like, they would have to change a lot, like, do some crazy stuff to make it feel different. Like, what I was describing, the whole Sacred Realm, like, changing everything up, or flooding Hyrule could be one idea, or maybe you expand how much you can explore.
Build a bunch of towns. Build a actual civilization.
Yeah.
That could work, because I know GTA, a couple of the games are in the exact same city, but the newest one actually makes the city actually alive, I guess you could say. So, yeah.
Yeah. There are any Zelda ideas you guys have?
Specific ideas? I'm trying to think. I don't really have anything specific.
All right.
Like,
well, I know people in the chat
idea. Do. Yeah. I guess I just want them to integrate more story. I have more concepts than ideas, like actual, like, just like parts I want them to improve instead of like actual, like, ideas of how they can. I guess so.
So, like, let's see. What are some ideas some people have here? Like, Sam was saying he honestly wants them to continue with the story with Adult League from Ocarina of Time. I actually was going to suggest something similar. I want to see... Well, there's two different things they could do, right? So, like, Ocarina of Time, going to Hyrule Historia, like, it diverges the timeline into three. So you kind of have three different stories here, Like, Majora's Mask is a sequel to Ocarina of Time, but only from the child timeline perspective. Yeah, it's a child timeline. So they could potentially create a sequel from the Link that maybe either that Link becomes an adult and that's a sequel to Majora's Mask, right? Or you kind of follow the events that happened after in the Fallen Hero timeline. What transpires between A Link to the Past and Ocarina of Time? There could be a game there. And I mean, technically, I guess the Wind Waker is, the
Wind Waker is sequeled by Phantom Hourglass and Spirit Tracks.
Right, but a prequel to Wind Waker, though, like, I guess, what happens in the Hyrule that has no Ganondorf, like, what led to the flood? Maybe they could or events that transpire there, but maybe there's not even supposed to be a link there, so then they don't actually do that.
They
So
could go over why. I guess they could.
I guess the only one that really makes sense is talking about what happens after Majora's Mask, right? Because there isn't supposed to be a link between Wind Waker and Ocarina of Time. That's why Wind Waker happened. And then A Link to the Past, the same deal. The hero has fallen, so this kingdom goes through disarray for a while, which leads to the event A Link to the Past. So I guess the only realistic one, unless they really, they retcon something or, change our perspective on it, is a sequel to Majora's Mask. Like, we never see, like, Link was always meant to go back to, they could easily add something to that. And I know the Hero of Time is a popular hero, so they could do something there. They could address the Fierce Deity. They could maybe somehow create a story with Majora's Mask and the Sacred Realm where Ganondorf is trapped. That's possible. After all, Ganondorf escapes the Sacred Realm. How does he escape the Sacred Realm? Like, we see him in Twilight Princess. So that's a possibility.
I guess if they did that, though, you'd have to not defeat Ganondorf. Which was kind of, I was going to say maybe they could do one between Ocarina of Time and Wind Waker. They figure out why Ganondorf is able to come back, because it's just like, oh, the Hero of Time's not there, so he comes back. But why? How? How does that happen?
Right.
But then, I guess at the end of the game, you'd have to not beat the boss. It'd be weird. Like, how would the ending work on that? Because obviously you beat Ganondorf in Wind Waker. So if you follow the story of how he got there, then you'd have to not beat him. So it'd be weird in that way.
I mean, I would like to provide an idea, but usually if an idea is, if it's something that might not happen, I'd probably be bombarded with, oh, that'll never happen. And I'd rather that not affect what I would like to happen.
Right. Well, some people have always talked about the idea of having a futuristic, like, dystopian style, like Breath of the Wild, like steampunk style, And
Make
I think,
that alien concept a game, please. That looks cool.
Like, they could really go over the top with the whole sci-fi alien feel they kind of sort of brought into Breath of the Wild. After all, I think the original Legend of Zelda was supposed to have a lot more sci-fi elements involved. Like, it wasn't originally planned to be a medieval-style game. So, they could go for, like, a steampunk style. I don't know how many people would be happy with that, because a lot of people kind of looked to Legend of Zelda to be, like, a like a medieval style kind of game, and a lot of fans may be a little upset about that, But I mean, like, look at Wind Waker. Can you really call Wind Waker like a medieval style kind of game, right? Like, it's almost closer to like I don't want to say the 1800s, but maybe like in like the colonies times, like when different like countries are trying to colonize. Like, I feel like it's almost closer to that. You know what I mean?
Zelda. Like, I would rather them not, because I feel like when they're not sticking to a formula, that's when they're at their absolute best. So I would not mind a futuristic or a steampunk or a cyberpunk style Zelda at all.
Or even, it could still be medieval style, but just literally have all sorts of crazy sci-fi alien stuff happening all the time. Like aliens, like Majora's Mask, there are aliens, like it's not. That's
actually my favorite side quest.
Yeah, it's an amazing side quest, right?
Oh, yeah.
And you could even make the argument, I mean, you could create a theory at least, like, that maybe the Sheikah aren't even, maybe they're aliens, Maybe,
or
like,
the Yiga.
Yeah.
Well, the Yiga are just Sheikah that betrayed the Sheikah.
Yeah,
so,
but I would rather the bad guys be the antagonists instead of the people who we assume are good guys. But yeah, I see what you mean.
Yeah, so that's a possibility. People are saying some stuff in the like. You guys have some interesting ideas. I want to like talk about them. Well, so here's a Son Gohan's idea. I think he's joking here, but I'll just say it anyways. Galandorf goes to Metro Kingdom and takes over New Donk City. So he and Mario Unit forces him down. Huh. Yeah. I mean, that's never going to happen, but it'd be funny.
I don't think anything's going to want it to happen. that would be funny.
Samus is suggesting they could bring back the dark elements of Legend of Zelda games, like Dark World stuff. Maybe, actually, You also mentioned you wouldn't mind seeing a sequel to Twilight Princess. I would like to see Midna again. That'd be really cool. How would that happen? I don't know. It is possible. Maybe they can even go into more detail as to how the Twilight are related to the Sheikah. Like there was some symbolism. There were some hints that the Sheikah, sort of, or at least a part of them, eventually were banished and they became the Twilight. So that'd be really cool to kind of see more history on that. The other possibility is they can go into the whole Civil War that happened before Ocarina of Time. So like if you go into the well, you will see like chains and there are tombs. Like it's literally. I don't know if it's the well or if it's... I think it's maybe the well. It may also be the spirit temple. But there is like literally tombs of dead Sheikah. And there's like signs suggesting a great civil war where basically they just massacred a whole bunch of Sheikah. And I mean, if you play different Zelda games, there's always like this talk about how the Sheikah at different points tried to, you know, break away from the rest of Hyrule. There's a lot of conflict. I mean, look what happened with the Yiga. You know, like there's definitely some similarities there. Like the Yiga themselves, they've been fighting against Hyrule. They're more on the side of Ganon. So they can definitely...
I actually thought of an interesting idea when you mentioned Twilight Princess. I think they could do kind of like how in Majora's Mask Link was looking for Navi. They could do a one after Twilight Princess where Link is trying to get Midna back from the Twilight Realm. I think that could be interesting.
Yeah.
Huh. Yeah.
I think Sabbath, or what I get from his comment about actually implementing more darker tones to Zelda games. Like I would like something in the same vein as Majora's Mask, where in the beginning you're like, okay, this is really weird, but like the more you explore and the more side quests you do,
oh gosh, the side quests are just
this hanging feeling of death. It continues to just hang over you, and everything is just reminding you, hey, you're gonna die. Hey, you're gonna die. These guys are gonna die. You're gonna let them die. It's crazy. I think that would be good.
That game is really, really good atmosphere.
Well, imagine a game that really,
even for the time.
To take what you said and sort of add to it, like imagine the idea I was just talking about, like them really getting to the whole Civil War, right? That whole struggle between the Sheikah and Hyrule. What if like they made a really dark, not necessarily bloody, right? Because it's Zelda, like they probably want to keep it in the teen range, but like but still they could have wars, they could have people dying. You can basically do everything you want with teen rating as you could in Mature.
I mean,
the only difference is the amount of flesh shredding has to be minimized, but it's the same. People still die and stuff.
Yeah, Wind Waker has Link stabbing Ganondorf through his head,
right?
Like just straight up through his head, and they got away with an E rating.
Yeah,
because it's right at the end, and the ESRB guys didn't play the game until the end. So,
I would like to see Link wield a new weapon, like as a main weapon. Like obviously, I would like him to still have the Master Sword at the end of the day. I'm pretty sure Spirit Tracks Link had a whip, I want to say.
Yeah.
I would like to see something like that again.
Well, I'm all for different weapons and placing emphasis on them, but there definitely needs to be a strong emphasis on swordplay. I'll be disappointed otherwise.
Yeah.
Like, I was worried when Breath of the Wild was first shown off, and they put a lot of emphasis on the bow. Like, you can make the argument the bow had that emphasis that you're kind of talking about for, say, a whip or whatever any other kind of weapon they come up with. So, and I liked what they did with the bow. I think it was great, but they still had swordplay, and that was fine. I would like them to expand upon what they did in Breath of the Wild,
I want them to still have the swordplay, but I would rather see the new Link or whatever have. Like, I would love, like, the Master Sword is a must-have. It would have to stay. But I would still love to see a different weapon get a little more emphasis too.
Yeah, like they could bring back the claw shot and make it like crazy, like really change it up, make it really maybe like they make him like Spider-Man, kind of like double claw shot, like truly swinging around, and you can use it as weapons to really like you can take all sorts of stuff and pull off clothes and yank things, like take it, whatever they did with the claw shot, take it to a whole other level. They can do a lot with that, for sure. Sungoon's talking about they can make an Atlantis kind of theme where Link has to go save a kingdom hidden in the sea. So I kind of like that, but I almost like it more like a side quest, like maybe like a DLC quest or something where, like, say for example, if they it's an idea. Like they won't do this because Breath of the Wild's done, but like if they had created a DLC quest for Breath of the Wild where there's something off into the sea and you actually have to go in a boat and travel across the sea, adding some sort of Wind Waker style gameplay with some extra few islands, but eventually you have to find this kingdom that has been ruined because there's, I don't know, let's just say some princess is like, oh, I need your help, my people are lost or whatever, right? And then you go and you have to restore this Atlantic city with some underwater temples or whatever.
The next Zelda game, you need to be able to dive and explore underwater. Like, why couldn't you do that in Breath of the Wild?
That water is way too beautiful.
There's probably even more to program in terms of physics and such. Like, so you know.
Yeah.
But I would definitely like them to at least get into underwater stuff for sure. Zach is back. He's talking about Link crossover with in Kid Icarus from Angel Land. I definitely love that cutscene in Smash Brothers. Like that was super epic. But I'm okay with nods for Kid Icarus and Zelda, and I'm also okay with nods for Zelda and Kid Icarus. But I'm not sure if I want a direct like it would have to be a spin-off, like not a mainline game. But I mean, if not counting a spin-off, like they could really get more into that in Smash Bros. Maybe with some more cutscenes, maybe some side quests. That'd be really cool.
Sabbath 64 says bring back the temples.
Yeah, we'd like to see more temples. Definitely want to see more temples.
Just that they bring back the Majora's Mask mechanics, but obviously I don't think that would happen since the Nintendo teams they are very good at what they do and they tend to abandon mechanics.
Do you mean like the time mechanic? Like the 3-day cycle?
Majora's Mask, where it's the mask,
Oh, the mask.
Okay.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that would be really cool.
They tend to abandon mechanics before they even have the chance to be overused.
They should stop that. Reuse that. It's so good.
Yeah.
So, I kind of want to move towards the next topic.
Okay.
If you guys have any other Zelda ideas, we'll bring them in the comments below. We'll address them. Is there anything else that you guys want to kind of add to these different Zelda ideas before we move on?
No.
No? Ready? All right. So, I hope you guys had time to create kind of like a mini like list of like 5 like cool things we could say about the Switch. So I have 5 ideas. I guess I'll just do my first one, and then we can kind of like just go around each doing one. So the first one I have is USB-C. Like when I mean USB-C, that's a connection to the Switch we talked about earlier, but the USB-C gives the Switch so many options. Not only can it charge quickly, but it can also connect to a lot of different devices, like the dock. Like they could introduce a 4K dock. Maybe they could allow the Switch to connect to a VR headset at some point. This USB-C just gives the Switch so much flexibility and potential that there could be so many different kinds of peripherals that Nintendo comes out with in the future that take advantage of that with the Switch connecting with it, and I just think there's so much that's possible. And the USB-C is kind of like a universal thing, which allows it to connect to a lot of different cables and third-party devices and USB charging, stations, or if you want to put it connected in your television, or like there's so much that can be done. It's like the best, like I guess, charging a connection they've ever had for a handheld. And I think it's actually something that some people underestimate about the Switch as to what it provides. Yeah, you guys are speechless. Yeah, I know. That was really good, right?
No, I agree. There are a lot of, especially the USB-C. I would like to say that is super underrated as to the amount of things they can do. Like you said, the amount of things and how flexible that is, and especially in comparison to their past handhelds, like the Game Boy and the 3DS. Both had, I don't want to say they were hard to come by, but the USB-C is way more common than those.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah.
So what are some ideas you had?
Me or Brandon?
No, you go first, Will.
Well, I put that it was the first hybrid console, and I like the fact that it is setting the standard for pretty much every other inevitable hybrid system to come after, since it's doing so good. And I like how this is specifically the first Nintendo hybrid, in which some people would argue that this is perfect for Nintendo. This is the perfect Nintendo. Some people would argue that, where you get your middleware games from the mobile games, and you also have the power of a Nintendo home console, stuff like that. Like, people think that this is the perfect blend for Nintendo Switch. The Nintendo Switch is the perfect blend, and I tend to agree.
I find it hard to see them not doing a hybrid in the future. Like, I feel like it's got to be a hybrid forever on. Like, that's just the way. This is an improvement. You can't go back and it be better. There's no way.
Like I said, I feel like inevitably there will be more hybrids, whether it's like Nintendo or Sony is trying to milk it, or Microsoft or whatever. This Switch is setting the standard.
Yeah, it's a new standard for sure. I think, you're going to just have, as mobile technology is only going to get better and better and better, it's going to catch up to the standard technology to a point where using like things like PCs is just going to be inferior. Like, we're not there yet. We may not be there for quite a while, but we are getting closer and closer. And there's going to be just no reason to not have a hybrid system, because it's going to be as powerful as you're going to need it to be to do whatever the hell you want. And the portability is just going to, it's better. It's just better that way. So definitely, I mean, the Switch in that regard has changed the game entirely for everyone.
I like the fact that it's not only is it by default, it is setting the standard by being the hybrid. Like, it existing alone is setting the standard, but I like more so the fact that it is setting the bar really high, in which it's the fastest selling system ever right now.
Yeah. So, Brandon, what's your first on the list? And I'm sure some of our ideas are going to sort of overlap, so, we'll skip them or just add a little bit to it. Not too much, I guess.
Yeah.
Oh, I think Brandon's gone. Brandon is gone. Oh, he mysteriously left when it was his turn. He may come back. He probably just had some connection issues. So I'll just kind of move on to my next point. Then, hopefully he comes back. Maybe he won't. We'll see what happens. An IR camera. So the IR camera in back of the right Joy-Con is something that's incredibly underestimated by the Nintendo Switch, and we haven't seen too much functionality with it yet. But I think it actually has an obscene amount of potential. Like, it is the way it has a very accurate detection system. Like, you can see so much. Like, here's a great example of it, actually. So there is the piano set for Nintendo Labo, right? And when the way it works is, from what I've heard, you obviously you put the Switch in there, but you plug the Joy-Con into the back, and it has this IR camera. And there's like a film that you put in to there as well, but between the cardboard the little pieces of cardboard, when you press them, the camera sees that movement, and it works so well that these pieces of cardboard actually function like an actual piano. It feels like a functioning piano. It's a one-to-one connection. It works really well from what I've heard. And the idea that you can accomplish all of this with just the back of the Joy-Con, but it, like, what? It's just kind of crazy how that camera is so, well done that you can actually create like a mini piano with just a controller and a piece of cardboard. I think that's crazy. So, I can only imagine what else is possible. Like, I've heard maybe people suggesting that, like, let's say you're just holding the controller. Let's say, the Joy-Cons, we put them into the little Joy-Con handle set, right? So it functions like a normal controller.
Right.
Theoretically, you could use that to create like actual aiming instead of tilting with motion controls. You could theoretically use that to aim, because the IR camera will notice the movement, and depending on how you move, in relation to your body, that could function as a pointer on screen. And you won't even have to point it directly at the screen. And that's something I didn't realize. Like, when I first saw that it was at the back of the controller, I was like, that doesn't work like the Wii. Like, you can't point at the screen. But the IR camera can see where it's moving in relation to you, so it can kind of surmise where you'd be pointing at the screen. And that's a whole other crazy functionality it could have as well. So, and that's just, I think we're just scratching the surface here. There's so much they can do. Will Nintendo actually realize the potential of the IR camera? I don't know. But I mean, at least that Labo thing with the piano is insane. And it's just, it kind of blows my mind, really.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It's probably, I'd argue that it is one of the most underrated parts of the Nintendo Switch itself, and it's partially because it's a part of the Joy-Con, so that kind of raises the price. But I still
Yeah.
I 100% agree with you. This has way too much potential to be so underutilized. Like Nintendo is the only one seemingly that is interested in this very, very interesting and innovative technology.
For sure.
And that's sad. That's really sad.
So I'm hearing people talk about the idea of a waterproof Switch on the chat. That is actually really cool. I don't think they make a waterproof Switch now, but maybe that's one of the things they could introduce in the future. I mean, after all, we have waterproof phones, so the Switch is a tablet. It's not too far off from being the next Switch could be a waterproof device. And considering maybe, I mean, if they really wanted to be kid-proof, that's one functionality they could add to that. The only problem with it being waterproof is that when you have the Joy-Cons, how they connect, that connection itself, kind of makes it a lot harder for it to be waterproof. But I don't think it's impossible. I mean, the newest iPhones, they do have a connection. They just minimize the amount of connections they could have, so they could probably still figure it out. But it would require a little bit more, I guess R&D, research and development.
Yeah, they could kid-proof it. Like you said, I don't really think the waterproof thing would work how it looks right now. Like, they kid-proof the 3DS by pretty much the 2DS is the kid-proof 3DS.
I definitely hope it's a lot slicker than that.
Yeah. They kind of took away the foldable part because they know kids always snap them in half, and they took away the gimmicks because they know kids won't use it. So I could see it if they did like that, but like we discussed earlier, I don't think that they're really worried about an updated design right now.
No, yeah. Now, they're like the report says from Wall Street Journal, they're more looking towards peripherals rather than Switch 2.0. So, what's your next idea? Well,
it is HD Rumble, and
okay.
This is another thing I feel like is underrated, but not as underrated as the IR camera. But HD Rumble, I feel like maybe it's underrated because it's so unnoticeable and how well Nintendo implements it into their games. Like running around in Super Mario Odyssey, like count how many times the HD Rumble goes off. When you start a rolling animation, it buzzes and you don't realize it, but it's sinking you deeper into the game. And I think that's really cool.
It is really cool. And I mean, like I brought up earlier, like they use the HD Rumble for Nintendo Labo, and it's so sophisticated that you can actually move a piece of cardboard around like a car. And that's crazy. Yeah. But it does really add to the games. That I really do feel the feedback of some of the games I play, and it does. There's more to it. There's more of a tactile experience in the game than it is normally, and I really appreciate it. But it's one of those things that's so subtle that you don't really notice, and it's hard to really tell people until you experience it yourself. But yeah, definitely, it's a great point.
Yeah, and then like even the HD Rumble itself is very versatile. It can emulate softness. It can make you feel like you're holding someone's hand. It can make you feel like it can make you feel like it's weighted, like the Joy-Con itself is weighted. It has ice in it or whatever. Mr. Koizumi said, he was like, it can make you feel like you're holding ice. You shake it up and it makes the sound of water. That is another very versatile thing that I feel like will go very underutilized.
It'll be really cool if in the future they go beyond HD Rumble and they can make the controllers feel both cold and hot. Like, imagine,
that would be cool.
It'd be really cool. Like, I wonder how they would do that. I feel like heat would be pretty easy to emulate, but cold might require a liquid device inside the system. Another option could be maybe the Joy-Con has like small little holes, right, that pushes out air to simulate that, which also gives you the option to have air to be also another kind of like feedback that you would sense. So it'd be really cool to see how they kind of go in the future as to how they introduce more ways to, I guess, feel. That would be amazing. Now I'm gonna move.
Zach says you'll feel it when DK chokes you out in Smash.
Oh yeah,
that would be funny. But yeah, go ahead.
It'd be really interesting if like all of a sudden the Joy-Con to make you feel like you're getting a beating. They could if like they rumble them like crazy. Like they might be able to do that. Like I feel like the HD Rumble that I've experienced so far has been really subtle. But what if they like just went into full overblown, like intense, like rumbling. It could be really cool. So the next one I want to talk about is like the NVIDIA architecture. So the architecture itself is what's kind of facilitating all these games coming over to Switch so quickly. Like indie games are so easy to port. Any game that runs on Unreal Engine comes onto, I can't snap my fingers, whatever. Like it comes really easily, and it's really facilitating the incredible library of the Switch. Like the Switch already has like over 400 games, or close to that at this point, and we've just passed 1 year. You know, that's an unprecedented amount of games so soon for a Nintendo system. And I mean, I can only imagine where we'll be by the end of its life cycle. We're talking about thousands, you know, if we consider the rate we're at right now. And third parties are only getting more and more on board, so the rate may increase. So it's going to be really interesting what we see in the future. But basically, the NVIDIA architecture in combination with Nintendo and, you know, the situation is basically creating a library that's larger than any we've ever seen on a Nintendo system, and I think that's something that's really cool about the Switch.
Yeah, you're right, especially if you can like recall towards the beginning of the Switch launch, a game called Snake Pass. That game was
I love it.
Yeah, yeah, that game was ported in a week, and
that looks pretty good too.
The engine on that game is very, very impressive. So that, like, if you look into it, it's crazy how fast they got that game onto Switch.
For sure,
I feel, and how similar it looks to the other versions. Yeah, I mean, maybe the art style sort of caters to that, but I do think that they did a very good job with that port in a week, no less.
So I'm just going to point out, guys, we're going to try to end this in about 10 minutes, so if you have any final questions, let us know. We're going to be closing out our list pretty soon. Like I said, I wanted to try to end this one a little sooner because I am away from home. So, Will, what's your next point on the list?
All right. Well, I put that the Switch is powerful, but in a relative sense. Like, more specifically, like, we're going to get the best looking Nintendo games that we've ever gotten. I'm not saying that it's like on par with the PS4 Pro or like a 4K PC or anything like that, but I'm saying we're gonna start getting the best looking Nintendo. I just said that, but yeah, I do.
Right,
feel
I mean,
like
it is the most powerful Nintendo system. We've already seen some of the best looking games we've ever seen for Nintendo. Mario Odyssey. I mean, Kirby's the best looking Kirby game we've ever seen. You know, I can't wait to see Metroid Prime 4. Like, I expect that to blow my mind, right? And as a handheld, the Switch is the most powerful, like, you know, actual relevant gaming handheld there is by a long shot, and that's crazy. So there's a lot of beautiful games on the Switch. I mean, any indie game just looks pretty. You know, it's like an HD indie game wherever you go. That's awesome.
Definitely.
And I was gonna. My next point is, like I said, Switch nature, but what I just mean is kind of like the switching dynamic of the Switch, where you can take it wherever you want. You can take it on the go. But like, for example, like I've been binge watching Dragon Ball, and you know, people always underestimate streaming apps on the Switch because you can use streaming apps everywhere. But what you can't really do with any other device, including tablets, is that you can't. Like there's technologies that allow for switching between screen and tablets, but like there's a little bit of a process with the Switch. You can be watching the TV, you get up, you take it out, and it's in your hand wherever you go. Like if you want to go to the bathroom, the living room, you know, if it's loaded up and you have it buffered, you can take it on the go with you, watch a bit of an episode, or you know, play a game, right? And that switching nature, just it's the most comfortable way to go from TV to handheld gaming experiences. You don't need separate devices; it's all in one. And that's something I think a lot of people underestimate because it's not something you really experience until you have it yourself. So that itself kind of makes Switch really, really special. I mean, it's called the Switch, right? It's the Switch, the switching nature. So it's really, really cool, and it's changed our gaming lives. Like that mechanic itself is amazing.
Yeah, I definitely 100% agree. Like you said, a lot of people underestimate streaming apps, and I get Nintendo's cop out or whatever you would like to call it. They pretty much say, hey, the Switch is a gaming console first, and I made this point in my video that I'm editing right now for the Switch 1-year anniversary. People are drowning in games on the Switch, so I do feel like it's about time for at least Netflix, or because I don't think Hulu could hold it down by themselves.
No, you need more.
Yeah,
I mean, Hulu's great,
Yeah,
but you need more. Like, not everyone watches Hulu. Some people watch Netflix, some people watch Crunchyroll, some people watch a combination.
yeah,
You need
that's true.
those for sure.
Yeah.
So, what's your next point, Will?
Yeah, it's actually interesting because your point kind of fed into my next point, in which I wrote down potential, and I pretty much just to wrap it all up with a little bow. I feel like the Switch has the potential. You know, they could add streaming apps, virtual console. Like if they reach the max potential of the Switch, it could be my favorite piece of tech like ever. Or like one
Not
of my
just
favorite
gaming
things
system,
ever.
just technology,
Yeah,
period.
yeah,
Yeah,
just one of my
it's so flexible with all the things it can do, right? Like the switching mechanic, like you're saying, the streaming apps, the games, the way the Joy-Cons can go in, like with all these peripherals they could bring to the system, they can take it. There's just so much they can do. Like, I think we're scratching the surface, really, and that's what's crazy. But my final point for a cool thing about the Switch is that it plays Nintendo games. There's, you could be as elite of a PC gamer as you are, but you cannot legally play the best Nintendo games. You'd have a hard time hacking your system and playing Mario Odyssey, which would be illegal, so you should never do that. But, like those games are really special. They're the best of the best in my opinion, and I love them. And the fact that you can play them on the Switch wherever you want, that's awesome. So
yeah, you're right. Like, into the little mini segment about pirating, I 100% agree. Like, people shouldn't pirate. Like, a lot of people were saying the Zelda attach rate was beyond what the Switch has. That's because people on PC were pirating Breath of the Wild, and the gaming whole market isn't really super profitable. Like, a lot of, like, if you've ever seen people say, and I'm talking to the audience, I'm sure you know this, Andres. Like, I'm sure people have seen other people say, "Hey, we're lucky games are $60." Games cost a lot to make nowadays, so I do feel like
they could be higher.
Yeah.
I mean, if you account for inflation, games used to be a lot more expensive. In fact, there were games that cost us $70, $80, like in the 90s or the 80s, and that doesn't account for inflation. Like, they'd be even more expensive now. They'd be, in terms of inflation, that those are like $100 games.
Yeah,
that isn't some sort of collector's edition. That's just the game itself, bare bones.
Yep.
And games were way smaller back then too.
Yep.
Putting 100 hours into games back then was kind of like really, really rare. Like, that was just no, it didn't happen. Not unless you just play that game like crazy repeatedly. So, yeah.
But yeah, I definitely agree. Like, Nintendo's all-star IP, this freaking treasure trove of quality in Nintendo's IP, you will never, ever, ever get anywhere else. And I think a lot of people don't get it, but with the Switch, they got to learn it. So, like you said, that kind of is the coolest thing about the Switch.
For sure.
So, yeah, I agree.
So, did you have a final point to add about cool things about the Switch before we get to the comments and call it a night?
Nope.
All right.
All
right. So, Son Gohan, I don't know about this new Pac-Man game on Switch, so I can't really answer your question. I'll check it out, though. I'll let you know. Sabbath, I'm actually at Penn State. I have a lot of friends at Penn State, so that's where I am. Zach, you hope Pokemon Switch is like Pokemon Stadium. I do hope it has like at least like a stadium-like feature, and at least have a kind of like a stadium-esque kind of feel to it in terms of the battles. That was really cool.
Entertainment Gaming Daily says, yo.
Sabbath, do we believe that the rumor of a Pokemon Direct supposedly coming? I don't know if I believe the rumor. I do think Pokemon Direct is bound to come. I don't know if it's going to happen like in March. But historically speaking, we always get some sort of Pokemon event before E3. So if there's a Pokemon game coming up this year, I would expect there to be a Pokemon Direct before E3. E3 is in June. I wouldn't be shocked to see one in May. Or even April. It happens. But it's kind of like, if we don't get a... Here's the thing. Even if we don't get a Direct, that doesn't mean Pokemon's like coming this year, because this is a console Pokemon. This is kind of like new ground. Like, so the patterns that we've seen from beforehand don't necessarily equate to this time around, because it's a different beast. So
yeah, true.
But historically speaking, we've gotten Pokemon Directs right, before E3, but that doesn't mean in March. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kirby Star Allies is pretty awesome, Lord Bowser. It's definitely a good game.
Lord Bowser.
Hey,
Yeah,
Gaming Daily, how you doing? Hey, Michael Hill.
A lot of cool people in the chat.
For sure. Yeah, Brandon. It seems Brandon has gotten abducted. He probably just got a disconnection. But anyways, everyone, thank you for coming by. Thank you for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed the podcast. I'm cutting this one off a little short this time. But if you have any questions or anything you want us to get into the next discussion, let us know in the comments below. Make sure to check out Brandon, even though he's not here. What about Nintendo? Check out Will as well. He is here. Will the Deity. Both the links to their channels are in the descriptions below. And remember to like this video, guys. It really helps out to kind of increase the Restart family, make it grow, make it awesome. And again, thank you so much for watching, everyone. And I'll see you all really soon.
Bye.
Have a good night. And